Yasmine, welcome to the Sustainable Act.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me. I was saying to you earlier, I can't believe we went all this time and I haven't had you on the show yet.
I know, I'm so excited that I finally get to be here.
Yeah, and like you said, this is your first podcast.
Yes, this is my first podcast.
I am so honored that I get to be your first podcast host. I know I won't be the last.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited for our conversation today and just getting to talk and catch up with my friend and maybe start off by introducing yourself, because I know you have so many different titles, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's why I honestly hate introduce myself. It's such a pain, but my name is Yasmine. I am a multifaceted artist. So basically, I love everything that has to do with art. I'm an actor, I'm a musician, I love to paint, I love photography, modeling, film, anything, you name it. I absolutely love to do it. Right now, I'm currently focused on mainly acting and music. And I also love playing sports. I love wellness and sustainability.
Yeah, I love it. And I love following you along because I get to live through you and see all these different things and even you're so into sports too, which is so cool because you're always playing a new sport or doing something for fun. So I know you have a platform as well. Maybe we can start off with you talking a little bit about your platform, when it started, or was it intentional or did it accidentally happen? I know you formed a really great community online and make such great content. But yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about how it started?
Yeah, so I actually went to UBC. So I went to UBC for school, and I had moved there from Beijing. So I grew up in Beijing, moved to Vancouver, was living the college university life, and I started to I basically wanted to start a YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. I started to do vlogs mainly because I'm so nostalgic and I'm such a sentimental person that I really like capturing my life and wanting to look back on my life. And so I started doing YouTube, and then I think through that I started to change my Instagram to be more about me. Mm-hmm. Before it used to be my photography. I loved taking photos of everything. And then actually, funny enough, I was actually dating a guy at the time. He was a photographer, and he convinced me to change my Instagram to show more of my face. He was like, why aren't you posting yourself more? And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah. So I started to do that, started modeling for fun. And then incongruent with my YouTube channel, my Instagram started to pick up as well. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, that's kind of how it started. And now Instagram is kind of my main platform.
I remember seeing your videos when you were still in university, because I think we met when you were still at UBC, and so you shared a lot of what it was like to be a student, but even going back to you growing up you were born in Beijing?
No, I was born in Montreal, right, and then grew up in Beijing.
And then so that's really cool. So how is that being I guess in Canada and or balancing that two different cultures and
yeah, I mean that is always a struggle. So I'm mixed race. I'm actually half Vietnamese, half British, so also it's a whole mess. There's Canada, there's Beijing, there's a lot going on there. So yeah, having that sense of identity has always been a struggle for me. And when I'm a Canadian citizen, so luckily I do have some sense of being in Canada seems part of my identity. Mm-hmm. But it is really tough, really knowing where you belong and how to fit in. And luckily when I moved here, I just felt the Western culture fit my personality a bit more.
Talking about identity and being a part of two different cultures, and I think it's so valid to resonate more with one culture over another. And I think it intersects perfectly with your platform, but you studied film, right?
Yeah, so I studied film production. Kind of on a whim. I didn't really know what I wanted to study. I just know that I really liked art, and I really liked the environmental studies. Mm-hmm. Back then, I really wanted to double major. I wanted to do something in art and something that has to do with environment, but my math is not great. So I was like, okay, environmental science is out for me. So I was like, maybe I can do like geography. And so at the time I was taking like a media studies program, and I decided to apply to the film program. And if I got in, then I was like, okay, sure, I guess I'm doing film for the next 3 years. And back then I still really wanted to keep my environmental route, so I tried to double major in geography and tried to double major in film production. Little did I know that film really takes up your entire life, so I ended up just doing film production.
I can relate to that. I think like the math thing too, I feel like a lot of like artists or like people in the art space are like similar. We're not mathematicians. Also so cool to know that you were like doing both or hoping to do both, and then having to pick one over the other, because they're both, I think, a lot of like time consuming, emotionally like draining. I'm sure it's like hard to like fully commit to like multiple different, I guess, industries or like sectors, as we can say. But I know we met because of the like intersection of sustainability and film, which is really cool that you still got to like, I think you were in your last year maybe, and like you were still like having like, I guess, connecting them both. So even though you chose one, it's cool to see you're still involved in like bringing it into the film space.
Yeah, that's true. When I was younger, I guess I started with like visual art. So I loved painting, and I wanted to like reflect my love for the environment as well in that. So I painted a lot of like nature landscapes, and I tried to make it really colorful and interesting to show my appreciation for nature and like kind of make people also love the beauty of nature. So then when I wanted to transfer over into film, I felt like documentaries was a really good way to bridge that gap. And I also love documentaries, and I've always, like, my dream was to be like a National Geographic like photographer, documentarian, whatever you want to call it. I just wanted to work with animals and like do documentaries. So that's kind of something that I tried to do in university as well. I tried to like bring back like sustainability with like the film aspect. And so that's why when we met, I kind of really wanted to keep having that dream of like, incorporating documentary and sustainability and film and conservation all in one. And it was a little bit overwhelming, but
yeah. And I know like maybe for context we can say when that was. When did we meet? Like 2018, 19?
2018, I think.
Yeah, I think I was also still in school. We were both still students. I was also studying film production, and I also, like, when you say overwhelming, I can relate to that, because I remember like being a student in my film program as well, and like wanting to also do the same thing, but there wasn't a huge community for that at that time. And like we both met at a meeting for like where all these other industry members were at, I think, right? That and it was starting to be talked about. There weren't a lot of people doing it, so I think that for me at least, it was like where that overwhelming feeling came from, is like wanting to do all this, but like how do we do it?
Right? The imposter syndrome is super real,
right?
I already have that in my like artistic persona, so to say, and to bring that in like the sustainability world as well is like, oh my god, even bigger. Like just because I always feel like, I don't know, we can like really get into it, but I feel like there's so much people that always feel a lot of pressure if they're like doing enough, or like, am I really like sustainable advocate if I'm like not drinking a reusable cup or whatever, so like there's a lot of like imposter syndrome with both aspects of like being an artist, being like in the sustainable world. It's a lot. It's very overwhelming.
Yeah, totally. It's like, what's the recipe, or what's the like perfect like sort of version of like one or the other? Like even as an artist, you do so many different things and like in different forms of art. So I'm sure, like, I wonder if like, do you like label yourself as like one thing, or are you like open to like, like how do you like identify yourself as an artist? Like, do you call yourself an artist? Do you call yourself a filmmaker, a creator? Like,
I think over the years I've had to get really good at like introducing myself and labeling myself, because I'm the type of person that really hates labels, and I hate being put in a box. And I guess I didn't really know where to start, because there's so many places, and I like don't want to branch out too much, but
branch out as much as you want.
Okay, in 2021, I did a beauty pageant.
Yeah.
So that was like the first experience that I had where I had to be like, okay, I'm Yasmine. This is who I am. This is what I do. And the easiest way to summarize it was that I was an artist. Like, you know, it's like vague enough, a good umbrella term to like describe everything that I do. And then now being a content creator as well, everyone's always talking about like, okay, you have to niche down, or like, what's your niche, or like, what do you do? And at the time I would always just say, oh yeah, like I do a lot of like lifestyle content, which is another like vague umbrella term for like whatever and anything. So now I'm also like, okay, yes, I do a lot of like lifestyle in the sense that this is just my life and what I do. But I also am trying to, I guess, niche down into being like, yes, I'm an actor and I'm a musician, and I support sustainability. I love wellness and basically self-expression. Because I really want to help people feel confident in expressing who they are, no matter like if they're in business or if they're an artist as well. Like so much of our artistry comes from like self-expression and emotions, and so I feel like that was a good niche word as well, or SEO word, so to say.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think like I'm sure that took years of like sort of navigating and figuring out too. And like I think because I think we're similar in that sense, where like that idea of like being put in a box or being like labeled as like one thing is like something we struggle with. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. Maybe it's a generational thing, because like we're not in that generation anymore where you have your one career and that's all you do, or you have your one role in society and that's what you're known for. I think we're in this like generation now where, you know, it's, I don't know,
you have to be good at everything.
You have to be good at everything, but
you have to have multiple skills.
And like we're allowed to have multiple passions. Maybe it's because we're privileged enough to be able to like have like multiple things that we want to do. Like we're not on this like survival sort of like, I don't know, like, you know, it's like we have to do this one thing because that's what we're known for. That's like our background. I think there's privilege in that too, that we get to just be free and explore different like paths and careers or jobs or like, you know, passions.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, for sure. True. Yeah, like, because I guess maybe let's talk about the negative side of that. Like, what's the con?
Yeah, I mean, we touched upon it a bit already. Like, it's so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And the imposter syndrome is really, really heavy because you don't know how to introduce yourself or where to place yourself, and it can feel like you're like constantly standing on ice. And so I think for me, like, really candidly, I feel like a little bit lost in that sometimes. I don't know if I should go pursue acting. I mean, I don't know if I should go pursue music. Like, they're both really, really difficult industries to begin with. And the fact that I'm trying to do both is just like, what am I doing? It's really, really hard. So yeah, I think I like feeling a little bit lost in that. And yes, it's a privilege that I get to explore those things, but at the same time, I don't really feel confident in either. Which I guess it kind of ties into my identity, where I don't really feel like I belong in any culture either. So that's kind of interesting. I'm just realizing that. Like feeling like I don't have a sense of identity, feeling like I don't have a sense of career. A lot of it is like a salad bowl of like different things. But I think I rather have that than be kind of one-dimensional. So yes, it comes with like a lot of like burden and a lot of like overwhelm and a lot of like unknown. I think you have to really embrace that, which is really hard, and it comes with a certain sort of like stamina to be like, okay, I don't know what's going on, or like I don't know what, like, when my next paycheck is, or what my next project is, or what I'm going to be doing in the next 5 years. But it comes with a nice like I love adventure and like freedom, and I think it makes life a lot more interesting that way.
Some people are like born with the like, you know, they're not meant to be put in that box. You know, there's like there's a place, like there's people that like you know, and roles and things in society that we need, and like grateful for. And then there's people that are like not meant to be in that. And like when you like, I guess, unleash that and allow yourself to like be who you are, be true to yourself, like so much beauty can come out of that. When you don't like it, even though like it's taxing on, you know, like mentally and emotionally. And I love that like you bring that up, and being vulnerable. And I actually want to like maybe get more into that, because I feel like a part of like why we've connected so much is like our conversations and like being vulnerable with each other. And I think that is a superpower that you have. And like and you show up, and even like with your digital presence you are vulnerable, and you make it normal to like express your feelings and your emotions. And in a society where we're taught to just like keep emotions to ourselves and like always put on this like front of like being strong or being okay or being whatever it is, the labels, you are one of the people that I know and like look up to, where you're like, no, we don't need to always like have it together, or like, yeah, put on this show. Where did that come from? Like, was that something that you know you grew up with, or like was there a point in your life where you felt, I'm gonna be like, I want to embrace this like vulnerability or this side of like, love to like unpack that.
Yeah. Oh man, I feel like there's so much that could be said with that, and I wish I had like a clean answer, but I think part of it is honestly just like my life experiences and my personality. Like, are we allowed to swear on that? I don't know. Yeah, okay. I don't give a fuck about like what people think, or like, you know, emotions are emotions, and I'm just a human being. So like, I'm just gonna live and be a human being is really what comes down to it. And I think this like I don't give a fuck kind of attitude comes with like the experiences that I've had. And so really, I think it comes from, you know, in COVID, like we all had such a crazy year. I don't know when we're going to stop talking about COVID, because it just seems like it's always like,
well, yeah. I mean, it's truly impacted like us in a way that I don't think like,
it was a crazy time. Yeah. During COVID, I like had just graduated. At the time I was, I had a boyfriend at the time, and he moved to Ontario, and that's kind of when I had to make a decision of like, okay, am I going to stay in Vancouver, and am I going to go to Ontario? And I decided to move there, because I thought like maybe I could try like Toronto. And so I moved there with him, and kind of experienced like COVID there. And then a month into it, he like broke up with me basically. And that's like when my whole life like completely changed. And I was like, okay, I don't go to school anymore. I don't have a job. I don't have friends. I don't have a boyfriend. What am I doing? Luckily, I do have family in Montreal, so I just ended up moving there to figure out my life and like kind of stand up on my feet again. So I moved to Montreal, and that's kind of where I fell in love with therapy. I wasn't going to it, but I, for some reason, just followed a bunch of like therapists on Instagram, and I love like self-reflection and like learning about like psychology, therapy terms, like all this kind of stuff. And so I kind of ended up taking this like trauma program that was free, which was nice. It was online, obviously. And I learned a lot about like trauma and how to heal and like all this kind of stuff. And that's kind of where my like the seed was planted of like my passion for emotions and therapy and becoming vulnerable. And luckily at the end of that summer in COVID, I moved back to Vancouver, and that's like when I really put like my practice into motion, I guess. I started really like embodying like what I learned, and because I like went through so much pain during COVID, I think I just like didn't care anymore. I was like, yeah, I'm having a bad day, like everyone has these, like this is mine. Like I remember like I think it was around October, like Halloween or whatever, I posted this story of like me bawling my eyes out. I was like on the floor crying. I think that was like the first time people really saw like my vulnerability, and like I think some people were like, oh my god, like I can't believe she posted her crying, like are you okay, like what's wrong, like did you break up with your boyfriend? And like at the time, like it wasn't even about him anymore. I was like, yeah, like I learned so much from this relationship, I grew so much from this relationship, but it wasn't even like bad tears. I just think my body had to process the pain, and it came out in this me crying on the floor. And so yeah, I think that's kind of where my first, like, I'm just gonna show myself, like, being really real and being really, like, vulnerable, and hopefully it helps you, like, be vulnerable as well, because I love when people are able to just share their emotions, and I think it makes us, like, connect so much easier. And yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Long-winded story, but
yeah. I know, and I know since then, like, I've seen, like, the posts, like, even in that early time when, like, I remember this one, I think you were screaming into a pillow, and like you're like, it's okay to do this, like, let it out, like, it's a good healthy practice. And even like some of your, like, dance, like, when you're like, let's just dance freely, and like just like like express yourself in a way that's like, who cares what you look like, or try to be perfect. Like, I think that notion of, like, try to be perfect. And so I think it's so beautiful that, like, you took that leap, and you were in that place where you're like, I don't care, like, like, in terms of your community or people that have connected with you, is that, like, did that change, or like, did people really, like, resonate, or how was that, or like, was it a positive reaction, or
that's an interesting question. I feel like it's always easier said than done, for sure. Just be vulnerable, like, show your emotions, like, so much easier said than done. And I think luckily I did have, the platform that I felt safe enough to do so. And yeah, I feel like you're always going to get a mixed reviews. I think a lot of people were kind of like, oh my God, like, what is she doing? She's a mess. Like, look at her. Like, I can't believe she's doing that. And then other people are like, oh my gosh, like, thank you for sharing that. Like, oh, like, I'm also feeling this way. And yeah, COVID is really hard, or like, and so I think it's, no matter how people feel about it, I think it's a good way to just, like, start the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, why is she crying? Or like, wow, she's crying. Can I cry like that? Like,
yeah. No, I totally get that. And I think I relate to that so much. Obviously my name being Smiley held a lot of, like, this, like, preconceived idea of, like, she's happy, or like, maybe because I do smile a lot. I don't know. I think we, like, a lot of it, like, you smile a lot, but, like, for some reason, like, because I smile a lot, it's like, oh, because you're Smiley, that's your name, like, you're a happy person, you're always happy. Made it tough for me growing up and throughout my 20s. Like, I think, like, maybe I made it harder for myself, but also just, like, constantly having to then put that front up of, like, my name is Smiley, like, I can't show emotion. And I'm such an emotional person, and I feel like that's one of the things that bonded us, is that, like, we are emotional people, like, beings, and, like, it's okay to express that. Like, whether it's, I think, like, I think we can relate on that. Like, when we feel joy, like, we really feel it, like, this, like intense amount of joy. And then when it's sadness, or like grief, or like whatever, we really feel that. And I think, again, there's power in that, there's beauty in that. It's a stigma too, because, like, we're taught not to show that, especially, like, when it's, like, sadness or crying or thing, we're taught, like, don't show your tears. I think it took me a long time. I think I'm still learning how to be okay with showing emotion, like the like, I guess, sad or dark side of, like, being, like, just living, and, like, not having to always be positive. And I remember reading a book that was talking all about, like, this mindset, or this, like, this need to be positive all the time, or, like, that advice that goes around, like, just stay positive, like, actually is, like, pretty negative. Or, like,
toxic positivity.
Toxic positivity is, like, actually does more damage than good. And, like, when you embrace, like, all sides, and emotions, like, how healthy that is. And
I definitely have embodied that over the years as well. Like, being an actor, like, we're always kind of, like, layering our work with, like, happy, scared, sad, angry. And so these, like, basic emotional needs, it's really helpful when you become emotionally aware of them. And it obviously, like, as an actor, like, that's kind of what you do, is that you just emote. And so I think emotions are really important. I think they make the world so much more colorful, and it definitely is hard. Like, you can't always just accept them. Like, sometimes you want to, like, stuff them down or like hide them. And sometimes I have my days like that too. Like if I don't know you, or if I'm like meeting someone for the first time, I'm not going to be like, hey, like, what's up? But I think
trauma dump.
Yeah, exactly. But I think like just it comes with time and it comes with practice, and I think the first step is like learning to be vulnerable with yourself. And like if you can admit it to yourself that you're not having a good day, or that you're like feeling whatever emotion, like jealousy, or like if you're feeling grateful, if you can identify it like on your own, I think it's a really good step.
I love like everything you're saying. I think it's so powerful. Speaking of like change, as we get older, I want to go back to like where we kind of started before we got kind of like, which I love. I love that this is a safe space to just talk about like our feelings and like stuff that again we don't always hear in like mainstream media, which I'm glad we're having these conversations. But yeah, as we like get older and we change, or friendships change, jobs change, interests change, like going back to like the beginning where we talked about you know, your background in like starting out like with visual art, going into film, like intersecting your like environmental passion. Do you want to talk a little bit about the like the films that you have been part of or created? I know you've had a lot of like film festival like seasons where you got to go out and like showcase your films, but maybe like the stories. I'd love to like know more about like the inspiration behind some of like the stories you share.
Oh man, yeah. Now that you just said film, I'm like, oh my god, actually, there's like so much I could talk about with film. Film specifically. I actually started with a background in cinematography. So I had mentioned I love photography, and that's kind of where I like came into this whole like I love shooting things as well, and like videos. So in film production, that's kind of what I really wanted to do, was like cinematography. I loved visuals and everything. And unfortunately, I was the only female cinematographer in my class, which made it like really, really challenging for me. Even though it's, you know, it's getting better, or it's better now that there's more space for women, obviously, in the film industry in general, but there's not a lot of, you know, women in film that are in the camera department. And I definitely felt that in my year, where I felt like people didn't really trust me as much, or I was a bit judged because maybe I wasn't as technical as the guys or whatever. And that was really hard on me. And I think my final year, I decided to do both. I decided to do cinematography as well as directing, just because it was my final year, so why not? And that year, I directed a film that was like loosely based on my mother's experiences with her beauty pageant, which funny enough ended up reflecting real life, as I went on and did a beauty pageant as well. And my directing experience was really interesting. I don't think I was like, okay, yeah, like directing is for me, but now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, actually, like I think I do have the personality for it, and like the vision for it. And so luckily,
and the stories for it.
Yeah. For it. Yeah. So that film was called Miss China, and that went into VAF, which is the Vancouver Asian Film Festival. Very fortunate to be like involved in that, and you know, being a part of like a community, which is really nice. And so that was Miss China. And then cinematography, I shot a film called Janet, which was about kind of like kind of your sexuality, but in Indian culture, it's not always like accepted. And for that film, I actually won Best Cinematography Award in my class. So I was like, hell yes. Like, suck it, guys. Like, I finally got an award for that, and like it was really nice to receive that. Unfortunately, like I'm not doing a lot of cinematography anymore, but I do a lot of my own videos, and for me, like my own photography, and for me that's kind of like enough. I still would love to like, you know, do DP a film one day, and hopefully get back into directing, but again, there's just so much on my plate that I really have to just focus on acting at the moment, and music, and even that's a lot. But I do miss like film production.
No, because I wanted to bring up the storytelling aspect, because you know, you have such a beautiful story of like where like you grew up and then like moving and then like your two cultures and like your different like passions even with like art and sustainability, and so like all that like to put into like, well, like even if it's not like your traditional film, you're telling your story like every time you're filming a vlog, because like even your vlogs, like you put in so much work and heart. You can tell like
Aw.
it's not just like here, like, you know, you set up a camera and whatever, like you put, I've noticed how much like effort you put into like how you edit and how you know, convey your story or your like day or week in the life. So I feel like all that, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the word, like whether it's like intersectionality, like all the different things that make you who you are, and it comes through your like art. And like, is there, you know, as an actor, like, is there stories that you gravitate towards more, like, or is it more so like, I know, like, I'm sure it's obviously hard to like, as an actor even today with like the strike and all that we were talking about before, but and so sometimes you don't have a choice, of course, but like what gravitates you, or what kind of stories, or like is there certain topics or things that you resonate with or you'd love to be a part of or have been part of?
Yeah, I feel like I'm still quite open. Like I love storytelling so much that I just want to tell any story really.
Yeah.
But I do feel like before I used to gravitate towards like a lot like drama. Like I
Yeah.
would love to like, you know, something that's really rooted in and grounded in like real life, and I felt like that was like something I really wanted to help tell. But now that I've like kind of like have been in the industry a little bit longer, I feel like being in like an action movie would be really fun, or like a comedy would be really fun. But these are just like dramas. I feel like the stories that I really want to tell are ones that don't often get told. Like I don't want to, you know, beat the nail on the head with like diversity and like inclusion, and but it's true, like now thankfully we're seeing like a lot more Asians in film, but yes, I'm half Asian, so I kind of want to see more of like people that are of mixed race in film, and I still feel like that's not quite there yet. There's like some people that are like good for them that they're making it and they're half, but it's not really our story that's being told. It's just they just so happen to be mixed race. So yeah, I think that's something that I'm quite passionate about. I would love to kind of dive deeper into like identity and like feeling like you don't belong, and because even if you're not mixed race, I feel like a lot of people can identify with that. And but I think we've been through so much in the past couple of years. I think people really need something that's, you know, fun,
Lighthearted.
Yeah. And it's really hard to find like a really good like lighthearted film or like comedy that's like not like Hallmark. And so I love like like dark comedy or something that's like quite clever but has still like an important message.
I mean, okay, I was gonna ask you if you've seen this one film, but then you said important message, and I'm like, I don't know if there's an important message. Have you seen Saltburn? Speaking of like lighthearted, but I don't know about the important message, but like it was...
I love Saltburn. Like oh my god, like I'm so embarrassed that we're talking about this, but I'm such a fan of Saltburn. Like I'm so sad that they didn't get any Oscar nominations. I'm like, like I think it's just like a soft spot in my heart because I just loved the visuals of that film. The like time period of that film was so nostalgic. Like everything about that film is just my type of taste.
Very art house, very like different, but like
Jacob Elordi, like come on, like
because I brought that up because I think, I don't know why I just thought of that film when you're like something lighthearted, something silly, something
dark
like
comedy,
dark comedy, or something that makes you like, wait, what? Like sort of like, what did I just watch? And like nobody stopped talking about it for weeks after it came out. I love what you're saying about the kind of content like that we're putting out or like we resonate with, or just like, you know, even this sense of like I guess it comes back to community and like what we all kind of relate to and experience together. Can we talk a little bit about the connection to nature, or this like, I guess, desire to incorporate nature into your art? Like,
I mean, I think I always loved nature and the environment, and like I loved animals. I had a lot of pets growing up. I also kind of grew up as like an only child, even though I have like two younger sisters now, and so I think a lot of, you know, my downtime was spent like playing games in the woods and like imagining things in the woods and in the forest and stuff. And so I think I always kind of had that like kinship with nature, and I think that's also what drew me to Vancouver, because you can go on so many hikes and there's like the beach and the mountains, and I don't know, I think I feel really calm when I'm in nature, and I just, yeah, I love like that aspect of it. And I think I also have such a passion for like traveling and adventure, and I think exploring different places and like caves and like mountains and like going scuba diving, like I love all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, I think that's why I really want to advocate for like conservation and like supporting the world, the earth.
Yeah, I love that. I think like we all have like our unique relationship to Mother Nature, and like it's so amazing to hear where that like formed, and like being able to just play. And like, and I recently was at a summit where you know, there was a lot of like environmentalism rooted in there, like action and like a lot of the like hard, deep, like, you know, work, but then like an opportunity to just play. And like I think we often forget, even as adults, that it's okay to just be outside. And like yeah, like this idea of play, like it's usually like, it also has a stigma of like that's for kids, or like if you're a child. But as you get older, I feel like it's even more important to like keep that element, keep that.
It really is. Like, funny enough that you say that, because I recently started an improv class, and I think this Thursday would be like my third class, and like all we do really is just play. Like we just play with each other. We pretend we're like these characters, and we do it for like 2-3 hours, and it's a nice refresher to just be like, okay, you can still have like your creativity, you can still have fun being silly, and like still have fun, like I'm an alien in space, like, you know, you can be anything, and it's just so special to have that kind of like active and alive inside you.
Yeah, your inner child.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. And that's so cool. And I'm so glad we're talking about that, because I think in the sustainability space, or even in like in the creative space, like even though like maybe somebody in a different field may look at like an industry like that we're in, where it's very much like, you know, you're creating art, your music, or your films, and it seems like it is still like cool and fun and all, but like it can also be so like taxing on your physical and your mental health. And sometimes you can lose sight of like why you're there, you know. Like it is a tough space to be in. And like you mentioned, like your struggles with just being an actor or a musician, or like in this time, balancing the both, like it can be so challenging being in it. Like I think it's always, we think grass is greener on the other side, and so people looking into the arts field think like it's so easy, but it isn't. As we've learned too through like so many documentaries and like, you know, interviews and things from like actors and like films, like we've learned like the harsh reality of that side of entertainment too. So anyways, not to go off tangent, but um even in that space, I think it's so important to keep that like that playfulness, and like just let go and like express yourself. And yeah, so I love that your passion, um it was rooted in that like play and like conservation work, like to like, I mean, I guess it's to keep that, right, for future generations, to like, especially in a time as like all digital technology and games, and like I see so many teenagers just like be sitting inside on like their Xboxes or like whatever PlayStations. um but like how do we continue encouraging future generations to go outside and like keep maintaining a healthy environment outdoors?
Yeah, that's really inspiring, because I love the idea of like inspiring the next generation to still like want to go into nature and like want to go on a hike. And I think I would love to like kind of take that into my like social media and like my content, and start yeah, like kind of promoting that and like showing like different hikes and like that you can go into the mountains and just like have fun and play and bring that kind of sense back into the youth.
You're promoting like, it's fun to be outdoors, and like I've seen your quirky videos where like you're I think like sliding down like the snowy mountain or whatever, and I think that there's like a lot of power in that too, like whatever time of the year it is, like especially if you're so lucky and privileged to be in like British Columbia where we have such easy access to this, like why not just go out on your like day off and like hike or just like be in nature, and it's therapeutic. I think there's a lot of like benefits it brings, like for your mental health, in addition to just like connecting to nature and the environment. Amazing. Okay, well, I'm so glad like we covered so much ground. Thank you so much for like sharing so much of your heart with me today, and like I knew like going into this that we were gonna have a nice heart to heart, because I feel like every conversation I have with you is so authentic, so true, so like I walk away learning some new things, and so I'm so glad that we got to do this, and like hopefully people can walk away with like new things, or just like I guess new ways of looking at things.
Yeah, this was so much fun, and it was really introspective for me too, because I don't always get the opportunity to just like blabble on and on about all these things, so this was really nice.
I do want to end it off by like maybe a little shout out, or like hear a little bit about what you have going on in the music space, because I know you have released a few singles. I think maybe you're working on more.
I've been like pretty much focusing a lot on music these days, and I'm hopefully gearing up towards an EP release, hopefully in May or sometime in the summer. So currently I have like 3 songs on Spotify, and that was like a journey, because talk about imposter syndrome, like music is the biggest imposter syndrome that I have above like everything else. And so the fact that I now have music out in the world is just crazy to me.
It was about time. I feel like since I've known you, like I think I've known that like part of you, and then like and now it's finally in the world, and I think it's so it's so powerful and so beautiful to like be a witness to like your art, and like just you as an incredible like human being with such a big heart. And like I feel like you put a lot, like listening to your music, I recommend to everyone listening to like check out Yasmine's songs, and we'll link it, but I feel like you put a lot of your like there's a lot of vulnerability in your music too. So again, like speaking, I think our theme of our conversation has been vulnerability and like being true to yourself. And so it's such a good way to close this off too, is like how I know I shouldn't even be speaking for your music.
No, I love it.
But it shows, I think, through your songs too. Like you just like pour in your heart, and I'm sure that was scary to put that out in the world.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it is honestly crazy that I have music out there, and I think I just love that I get to share again like part of my voice, and like I have this platform to just share my voice, because the biggest thing is like I just want to be understood, and I just want to be seen, and so thank you for allowing me to come on here.
Thank you for like just sharing this space with me today, and like opening your heart, and like I know I already said that, but like I truly hope that people listening to this or watching this feel seen and see themselves in this, because I think a lot of what you talked about today and opened up about is a lot of what a lot of people can relate to, whatever like field they're in or space they're in, whether they're in the creative space or in the environmental space or just anywhere, like walk of life. But is there anything final you'd like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, I feel like this is probably more for me than anything, but like honestly, just trust the process. Like if you're listening to this and you feel also like everything that we're feeling, like lost and unsure of like where to go, and everything just feels like overwhelming, like honestly just trust the process. That's kind of what I'm trying to do. And life changes like so unexpectedly, so just have fun with it, to be honest. And thank you so much for listening to this platform. Like the more you listen, the more Smiely can do all these podcasts. So thanks for like listening to us and like hearing us out. And I'm sure, yeah, I'm gonna give her all the links to all my stuff so you can come and like support me as well, and like find me on YouTube, find me on Instagram, listen to my music. Even if you don't like it, just go listen to it. Yeah.
Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's so fun. We'll link everything in the like bio and on socials, and I hope everyone is like, you know, takes care. I think wherever you are in this space, in the world, in life, be vulnerable, be true to yourself, have fun with it like Yasmine said, and we'll catch you at the next episode.